Dear friends, welcome back to TechBits Learning. In our previous video, we learned how to create an Azure virtual machine. But have you ever wondered where does that virtual machine actually store its operating system? Where do companies store millions of customers' documents? How does Netflix stream videos? How do banks securely store transaction records? And how does Microsoft protect your data even an entire data center goes offline? The answer lies in Azure Storage. In today's video, we'll understand Azure Storage from scratch with simple real world examples. By the end of this video, you will understand what Azure Storage is, different Azure Storage services, blob storage, Azure file shares, queues, tables, redundancy option, storage accounts, best practices, and interview questions. And this will be followed by a live Azure portal demonstration. Let's get started. Now let's understand a very general question. What is Azure Storage? Imagine you are building a new house. Once it's ready, you need places to store clothes, documents, electronics, photos, and kitchen items. You don't keep everything in one room. Instead, you organize your belongings based on their purpose. Azure Storage works exactly the same way. Organizations generate enormous amounts of data every day. Customer records, videos, images, database backups, virtual machine disks, log files, application files. Azure provides different storage services, each designed for a specific type of data. Instead of using one storage solutions for everything, Azure gives you specialized storage services for different workloads. Think of Azure Storage as a massive digital warehouse with different rooms for different kinds of data. Now let's talk about storage account. What is a storage account? Before storing any data, Azure requires a storage account. Think of a storage account as a container or a warehouse. Inside that warehouse, you can create different storage services. One storage account can contain blob containers, file shares, queues, tables. Whenever you create Azure Storage, the first step is always creating a storage account. A storage account also defines performance, redundancy, region, security settings, access methods. Now first comes blob storage. Blob stands for binary large object. Blob storage is used for storing unstructured data. Examples include images, videos, PDFs, documents, backups, ISO files, application packages, website content. A real world example. Imagine Netflix. Millions of videos are streamed every day. Those videos files can be stored in blob storage. Another example, a hospital stores millions of X-ray images. Those images can also be stored in blob storage. Blob storage is one of Azure's most scalable storage services. Now let's talk about Azure file shares. Now imagine multiple employees working on the same project. Everyone needs access to the same files. This is where Azure file shares come in. Azure file shares provide a shared network drive. Users can access files from Windows, Linux, Mac OS. A real world example, Azure Virtual Desktop. In many AVD environments, FS Logic's user profiles are stored on Azure files, allowing users to have the same desktop experience no matter which session host they log into. Another example, an organization stores shared HR policies, Excel files, and project documents on Azure files so employees can access them from different locations. Now next comes Azure Queue Storage. Imagine placing food orders at a restaurant. The waiter writes down each orders and places it in a queue. The kitchen processes the orders one by one. Azure Queue Storage works in a similar way. Applications send messages to a queue. Another application reads those messages and processes them. Real world example: order processing in e commerce, email notifications, payment processing, and background jobs. Queue helps applications communicate reliably without slowing down the user experience. Now, let's talk about Azure Table Storage. Azure Table Storage stores structured NoSQL data. Unlike SQL databases, table storage is designed for massive scalability and simple key value access. Examples include IoT sensor data, user preferences, device metadata, application logs. It's ideal when you need fast access to large amounts of structured data without complex relationships. Now, let's understand Azure redundancy options. One of the biggest advantages of Azure storage is data durability. Let's understand the redundancy options. LRS, locally redundant storage. Azure keeps three copies of your data within a single data center, suitable for development, test environments, cost sensitive workloads. ZRS, zone redundant storage. Azure stores three copies across different availability zones in the same region. If one data center fails, your data remains available. Suitable for business critical applications, high availability. GRS, geo redundant storage. Azure replicates your data to another paired region. Example, Central India to South India. If an entire region becomes unavailable, your data is protected in the paired region, suitable for disaster recovery and business continuity. GZRS, Geo Zone Redundant Storage, combines the benefits of ZRS and GRS. Your data is replicated across multiple availability zones and to another paired Azure region. This offers the highest level of resilience for mission critical workloads. Real world examples such as a multinational bank, customer documents stored in blob storage, employee shared files in Azure file shares, payment request in queue storage, customer metadata in table storage. To ensure data protection, LRS for development, ZRS for production, GRS for disaster recovery, GZRS for mission critical banking systems. This architecture helps the bank achieve scalability, availability, and resilience. Now let's understand some best practices. Always remember to use private endpoints whenever possible. Encrypt sensitive data. Enable soft delete and versioning for recovery. Choose the right redundancy option based on business needs. Apply lifecycle management to move older data to cooler storage tiers. Monitor storage usage and costs. Dear friends, let's dive into interview questions. What is the difference between blob storage and Azure file shares? Blob storage stores unstructured data. Examples: images, videos, PDFs, backups, ISO files, ideal for large scale data storage and analytics, whereas Azure file shares store files in the shared folders and it is accessed by via SMB like network drive. Examples: documents, Excel files, user profiles, ideal for lift and shift and shared access. Question 2: which Azure storage service is commonly used to store FSLogix profiles in Azure Virtual Desktop? So answer is Azure Files. What does LRS stand for? LRS stands for locally redundant storage. Azure keeps three copies of your data within a single data center. Which redundancy option provides both zone and geo protection? Answer is Geo Zone Redundant Storage, GZRS. Can one storage account contain blob containers, file shares, queues, and tables? Answer is yes. Dear friends, what is conclusion and call to action? Today we learned what Azure Storage is, storage accounts, blob storage, Azure file shares, queue storage, table storage, LRS, ZRS, GRS, and GZRS, all sort of redundant options, best practices, and interview questions. If this video helped you understand Azure Storage, please like, subscribe to TechBits Learning, and share it with anyone starting their Azure journey. In the next video, we'll explore one of the most important topics in Azure, Azure Virtual Networking, including subnets, NSGs, VPN gateways, load balancers, Azure Firewall, and how Azure resources communicate securely across networks. Till then, thank you for watching TechBits Learning. See you in the next video. Always remember, learn cloud, build future, grow together. And friends, I'll be soon uploading the live Azure portal demonstration for Azure storage services as well. Stay tuned for my next video. Thank you.